Yeah, it's just, once again, we've got to sort out this, whether it's a transfer window. Darren Britt,
Yeah.
he was the best.
Why?
He was just...
Your smirk says enough. Paul Harrigan was in your mix, but he's not in the NRL Hall of Fame. Do you think that's a bit of a miss?
I can't believe it.
Welcome back to another week of Immortal Behaviour, thanks to Tab. Joey, how are you going?
I'm good.
Good?
I'm sick of a couple of things.
Would DCE
Dylan
saga be one
Brown's
of them?
name and DCE. Actually, Dylan Brown been doing cartwheels about what Daly Cherry Evans has done.
Taking some heat off. Well,
Oh, yeah.
seeing as though it's making your skin itch, let's stay on that train for a little bit longer. It's going to make one hell of a book, I tell you what.
Well, just another chapter in the book of the soap opera of rugby league. There's been some this year. Off-season. What do we have in the off-season? Paul Kent's one would have been chapter 1, and then we go into Dylan Brown, and that'd be quite thick. And then we go into DCE.
This will beef it up for a while.
This is chapter 3. There's probably about 43 going to happen by October time. Anyway.
The gift that keeps on giving. How do you think Manly would be feeling at the moment? The fans, of course.
Fans, yeah, they'd be disappointed because he'd be a fan favourite over there. He's been an amazing player when you look at his stats. How many games he's missed, how many he's played, and how many rep games he's played. And I've got to say, he's playing as good as ever. So they'd be disappointed. Interesting Sunday at 4 Pines when they play Parramatta. Whose fans are going to boo who? So
Bring on the niggle.
I'm sick of it already. Sick of it.
In terms of how it's all played out though, Cherry Evans obviously came onto 100% footy on Monday night, but even just other ways he's spoken, do you think he's controlled and handled the narrative really well?
I think he has. He's got on the front foot from his point of view. And the way it's been shown in the media, it sort of paints Manly, the club, not in a good light. So I don't know. Look, there's 3 sides to every story. His side, Manly's side, and the truth. And you know what? No one needs to know. It's Daly's decision. All only people need to know is Daly and his family, and probably Manly, the club.
And I think he's come out and said something along those lines.
Oh,
like
he
he was hoping for it to stay under the radar and just go about his footy for the year. He told the club he wasn't going to be there for next year and just get along with it. But that's the world that we live in at the moment, I guess.
It was a great exclusive from Denny Wadley. He broke the story, and then he was on 100% footy that night. And the ratings were huge, weren't they?
Through the roof.
Okay, who's on next week on 100% footy?
What's the goss? Chapter 4, stay tuned.
We'll get someone who's going to backflip on their contract.
All right, DCE's future, where's he going to go? We've got a couple of potential spines and clubs that he could go to, so we'll bring that up to have a look now. One being the Roosters, one potentially being the Bulldogs. Where do you think he might fit?
I think he'll stay in Sydney. He's got 3 daughters.
Yeah, he's got girls.
I'd say that'd be a couple of them would be at school. Yeah. His wife's from the Northern Beaches. I don't. Well, I'm just speculating. I wouldn't think they'd want to take them all out of school, and especially at that age where they're young. So I think he'll stay in Sydney. And the 2 obvious ones is the Roosters. No Brandon Smith. There's probably 800 maybe. And no Chad Townsend next year. That's about 1.1. Also, Joey Manu's not coming back. I think they had money, so they got a war chest.
The Roosters have money? No.
Yes. Well, you sort of can't joke about it when you look who they've lost and the players who I mentioned. So they got a war chest, which is terrifying. Bloke from Newcastle. Hope he doesn't go there. So in the off season, myself, Freddy, Cameron, and Billy rated our spines out of 10. Now the best one was the Melbourne Storm. A 10 is a once-in-a-generation player, a 9's an elite, an 8 is a great player, a 7 is a good club player, and a 6 is a veteran or a young player coming up. So Melbourne, Pappenhausen was an 8, Munster's a 10, Jerome Hughes is a 9, and Harry is a 10. That comes 37 out of 40. So if he goes to the Roosters, you got Tedesco's a 9, Sammy Walker would be an 8 at this stage of his career. Reece Robson's an 8, and Daly Cherry Evans is a 9, close to a 10. So that's a premiership spine, without a doubt. However, you go to the Bulldogs, Connor Tracy's probably a 7 at this stage of his career. Matt Burton's an 8. Once again, Daly is a 9, even creeping to a 10. I'd say Rude Marnie's an 8. So if you look at those numbers, you've got to say the Roosters' spine is more strike. I think that's where he'll end up.
Interesting. Freddy,
Yeah, if I
also,
had to put it in percent, I reckon 75% or even more, 80% he beat the Roosters, 20% at the Bulldogs.
do you think he's made that decision yet?
Once again, theories. I've got a theory that the phrase "I haven't signed yet"
Right.
will come
It's
out from
different
both
to-
parties, but I've agreed he's different. I haven't signed, which he hasn't, but there's a handshake and a wink, wink, nod, nod.
We've all had one of those at some point.
Oh yes.
Freddie threw out in the mix on Freddie and the 8th that he should be running the game in at the NRL. What are your thoughts on? I mean,
Well,
Freddie's known for throwing out a big call.
Well, I think we ship him off to Harvard to do a business degree. I understand a former player in there. I don't know. It's up to Daly. You know, he's 15. He would have been playing. I think he'll play for another 2-3 years. So that's 18 years in the NRL. Why would he want to jump into the furnace of
Also,
running the game?
Running the game's a big one. Like Volandis, he's a businessman not only in Australia, internationally, but maybe even just having a mix.
Well, Volandis sits above everyone. I think Freddie be talking about Andrew Abdo's job, but Andrew's doing a great job. And once again, we're only speculating. I don't know whether Daly wants to go into coaching or he wants to get away from the game or he wants to go into media. Also, with the contacts of the Roosters on the board, they have a lot of heavy hitters. So whatever he wants to do, they could help. No end.
Also, if you start pulling threads a little bit more about this story, management always comes into the picture a little bit. I was waiting for that.
In the off-season, I read they did a survey with coaches and they asked the coaches, what's the biggest problem in the game? 25%. A quarter of them said player managers.
It's wild, isn't it?
And there's clubs.
Can we change that? Is there a way to change it?
I
Or now that they have the power, is that
Well, you
sign sort of
hear
delivered?
you hear stories of certain managers having a cartel at clubs, and then they pretty much hold clubs to ransom. I'm not sort of across all that sort of stuff, but there's got to be a big stick there at the NRL to control them. But I don't know how they do it. I really don't know how. But like anything, there's got to be consequence for your behaviour. You know, if they step out of line, there's got to be consequence.
It'll be interesting to see how Cherry Evans plays out because he's got the same manager as Teddy and Reece Robson at the Roosters. So watch this space. Watch this space. In terms of filling the void at Manly, it's been thrown in the mix that Jamal Fogarty's name has been put out there. What would you make of his move to the Manly Sea Eagles?
Yeah, I think he'd be a good buy. He's
Why?
a really good player. Nice and steady. He can get his team around the park, organises well. Now, if something happened to Daly, the 3 players who are putting their hand up for Origin as a halfback, we'll put Dearden aside, I see him as a 5'8", would be Jamal Fogarty, Trindle, Braden Trindle, and also Sammy. Now, Sammy Walker's not back, so you're looking at those 2 players. You're looking at Braden Trindle, who I think has got his nose in front at the moment of, I've just gone blank. What's his name from Canberra?
Fogarty.
Fogarty.
Jamal.
Too many head knocks. But I think he'd be a really good buy. I wouldn't want to see Luke Brooks go into the playmaking role at halfback. The big raps on a young guy called Joey Walsh, but it's only 19.
Is he a 7? Definitely a 7?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know. But he's 2 or 3 years off
Yeah.
nailing that position. I think Fogarty would be a really good buy for him.
Wayne Bennett has come out and said that the DCE saga is a self-destruct button for the NRL. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's just, once again, we've got to sort out this, whether it's a transfer window. Every other sport in the world does it. There's excuses about, the players have got a plan for, kids going to school, finding a house or renting a house. Let's just get it done. End of the year, I'd imagine fans, it drives them mad. Imagine Parramatta fan, where they had Dylan Brown for 7 years, and all of a sudden they know he's going. And there's already calls from former players and even fans that go now. So it leaves a bad taste in the mouth of fans.
Do you think the transfer window is the best or even the only option, or is there another option?
Once again, I don't know. But I reckon the end of the year, transfer window, or even after Origin. Look, I don't know.
Why wouldn't they do it? Why have they not
Because
seen this occurring and reoccurring?
I think the Players Association don't want that.
Right.
Because they want players to have time to plan their move from, say, Manly to Newcastle or whatever. Kids in school, finding a house, but honestly, they can get it done.
Get it done. Ben Hunt just went up to the Broncos, and his wife and kids, they didn't have a house yet, so he just went up, and when they found one, she moved up there with the kids.
He's staying in one of Darren Lockyer's 15 houses.
Is that the one with an airline, or is that JT?
No, it's JT.
Ah, so confusing. All right, it's
he
time.
owns 25 houses in Townsville.
I bet. It's time for the Tab Big Call for the week. What have you got, Joey?
Now, this year, look, rugby league's flying, as we know. Ratings are up, crowds are up. But some games, especially at night when it's dewy and wet, are bores. And once they get into the arm wrestle of trading sets, of ding-dogging either side, it is kick downfield, dummy half run, dummy half run, dummy half run, hit up, kick to the corner.
Yeah.
Good example the other night in Auckland was the Roosters v Warriors. It was very dour. Incredibly slippery, so I understand, and it's risk reward. If you're coming out of trouble and you make an error in those conditions, you can be punished. So to encourage teams to move the ball coming out of trouble, a try from inside your own 40 is 5 points, which would encourage teams to move the ball coming out of trouble, offload the ball or an early shift. If you have a look at Cronulla last week, they scored one from their in goal and another one from inside their 30. So if teams are chasing points, it encourage attacking footy. I thought the 2-point field goal was ridiculous, but the excitement, especially when Nathan nailed that.
That was insane, a couple of weeks ago.
Or something. Yeah, I thought that was really exciting. Maybe
Well,
something
rugby
to look
league's
at.
entertainment, right? We want to
Well,
keep the
it's
TVs
entertaining.
on. Keep the kids
Well, the
wanting to play.
Roosters Warriors game, I pretty much put it on mute and cooked dinner. And I love watching every game. But there's some games which can get boring. So maybe encourage ball movement coming out of
Spice it
trouble.
up.
Risk reward.
I heard you say years ago that you'd love to see the game with one less player.
One
You
less
still on
player.
that bandwagon?
Yep.
Love it.
Well, the size of the field hasn't changed since 1908. But we're getting bigger and stronger and faster. So the gaps, and I think, rugby union, I think they should go down to 13 anyway. I don't want to give them ideas.
Let's leave that.
But I
Park
think
it.
eventually, I think the right number would be 11, where it's not Mickey Mouse at sevens, where there's just so much space. But I think the first one, maybe dropping the lock off the field, have 12 on 12. I'd love to see it in trials or Charity Shield or something like that, and just see how that extra space would be. But yeah, I think 11 aside would be really entertaining.
I'd love to play. Strap the boots back up and give it a crack.
You can have that.
You're done.
How old are you?
32. But with like 80-year-old knees.
How many knees have
4.
ACLs?
Yeah. Not
Wow.
ideal.
Yuck.
That's right. You were talking about the top 5 props of all time
Sorry,
on Freddy
you
and the
shouldn't ask your age.
That's all right.
It's all right. Come on, troll on. Is that what you call
Married
it?
32 with 3 kids. Who would have thought?
Troll.
Far
troll
out.
me.
Yeah, you were talking about the top 5 props yesterday on Freddy and the 8th. Paul Harrigan was in your mix, but he's not in the NRL Hall of Fame. Do you
can't
think that's a
believe
bit of a
this.
miss?
I can't believe it.
An oversight?
There's look at those.
Hashtag.
You can't even see
Can we
those.
zoom in on those fingers?
Hashtag Chief into Hall of Fame. Well, without Paul Harrigan, the Knights don't win the 1997 Grand Final, which was such an iconic game. It was during the split of the Super League, and it was just, for Newcastle, it was such an amazing time. If he doesn't play, if he doesn't captain the team, we don't win.
Also,
Simple
his
as that.
influence in rugby league,
the media?
post in the
Yeah.
media, exactly, post playing career.
Yeah.
Sam Burgess is in the Hall of Fame. Should we start some kind of?
Yeah, I think Chief
proper
should be in there. I was really surprised he's not in there. He captained Australia once. Obviously, his efforts for New South Wales, there was a period there when New South Wales won in 92, 93, and 94 under Gus. Chief was just an animal.
What was it like running out with him, running
it
through the
was
sheds
just
out
so
into
good.
the field?
He loved a meeting, Chief. He would love a meeting.
Pre-game?
Usually the night before.
Yeah.
The one before the 97 Grand Final was just incredible. Get tingles thinking
Would he
about
have a meeting with everyone or just pick out a couple of...
sometimes key players, but before the 97 Grand Final, we all got to his room and you had to go around and talk about what it meant to win a Grand Final. And I usually don't listen to meetings, but I listened to everyone. And it got to Mark Glanville, our lock, and he started to talk, and he just broke down crying. Couldn't talk. And I'm not crying, blubbering. And then we finished with Chief, and Chief went, no one gets sent off in a grand final. I'm going to go take some heads off. Get on my back. And I'm like, wow.
Let's
I can
go.
still get goosebumps thinking. But that's the leader he was.
Yeah.
And it was a different game back then.
Of course.
You know, the target area was sometimes from your Adam's apple to your chin.
Do you think
Great game. Good to play as a halfback. Neck operation, broken back, knees, groins, shoulder.
Are there any
elbow.
modern day players that remind you of Chief and the way that he went about playing footy?
Some of the front rowers, you know, who really lead from the front, and you can name them. You know, Payne Haas is a little bit different. He's an unbelievable athlete. So Paul Harrigan started in the Knights in the juniors as an outside back.
Wow.
For the top of my head, I'm just trying to think who's an inspirational player like that who just puts his body on the line. Maybe a smaller version of Victor.
Yeah.
And Chief is such a gentleman. He's such a gentleman off the field, but on the field he was such an animal. You wouldn't meet a nicer guy off the field, but once he went across that line,
Flick the switch.
yep, big switch. Yeah, can't believe he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Crazy.
Hashtag.
Chief to the Hall. The Kangaroos are heading to England. We've got an Ashes tour.
So good.
Isn't it unreal?
So good.
What do you like the most about it? The investment into that part of rugby league?
Well, if you read, the Super League over there is struggling a little bit in the north of England. People like going and watch sport because of superstars, and Australia is just riddled with absolute superstars from Jersey 1 to probably 25. So they're playing at Wembley. I think they're playing at Ellen Road and Old Trafford. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, those three.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The guy who runs Warrington, Simon Moran, who's a huge music promoter, I understand he's involved. So Simon's one of the great operators and entrepreneurs in entertainment or sport. So I think they would be all sellouts. What I'd love to see is we take the Kangaroos away, but then we also take an under-23s team of our best young talent, and they play 4 games against St Helens, Wigan, Leeds, Warrington. I think they're the top clubs. Actually, I think Hull KR under Willie Peters is right up there. But 3 or 4 games midweek against those.
Do you think those tiers are similar? Is that what you mean? The next step in between
For sure.
NRL and...
So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
You get
wow.
midweek, and they're so passionate over there. And you got to understand, north of England, Warrington to Wigan is 10 minutes away. Wigan to St Helens is 10 minutes away. So the rivalry is huge. You play those clubs, every game would be sold out. So you're blooding the Australian young players who are going away training with the superstars, understanding how to prepare. And then you're playing them young talent against the best English players, and the English players brings money in, gives them the example of where the NRL young players are. I'd love to see that. Those tours back in the day, my dad used to wake myself and Matthew up to watch them, 82, 86 and 90. That was so good. Those midweek games against Wigan and sold out Central Park, and the footy was unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is great. This is so good for the game.
I reckon forget about DCE going to the NRL. Maybe you should be Volandi's offside with some of these ideas. Would you like it?
I'll work half a day. Monday from midday till 3. How's that?
As long as you can fit your surfing in.
Yeah.
What are some of your memories? What are the players themselves? Some of the ones we're allowed to speak about, maybe. Let's keep it
just so
somewhat
fun.
PG.
I remember sort of 2000, 2001, we went over a couple of years in a row, and we would all get up early, and it was optional to go to the gym at like 6:30 in the morning, and we'd get over there, everyone over there, we'd be doing extra training, we'd be in the pool competing against each other. I used to love getting at training and competing in fitness and skills against 2 players in particular. Freddy was one. When we were doing fitness, me and Freddy would always race each other. And Darren Lockyer and these players. And when you're at training doing these scrimmages and games, it was just so intense. They're the really good memories. The other memories are getting to know other players, but...
Who was the best player that you didn't necessarily have a big connection with before? Because obviously you go on tour for a while.
Darren Britt.
Yeah?
He was the best.
Why?
He was just...
Your smirk says enough.
It was just the best. He was so funny, big country boy. It was during those years when everyone started to clip her up, you know, a bit of manscaping. So Britty came to my room with Jason Croker. Jason Croker had the clippers. So Darren Britt took his shirt off. We're like, whoa, big ginger, Bigfoot. So we're clipping him up and he was like, oh, I feel ripped. For the next week, I'd wake up and there'd be like ginger hair in the mouth. What's that? And British chest hair.
Oh.
Maybe other places. Anyway.
Also, sharing clippers is not the one.
Oh, well,
that's disgusting.
Disgusting, boys.
That's grubby.
Disgusting, man. But Darren Britt was great. And you know what? He was so popular and everyone loved him. Everyone wanted him in the team.
That's so
and when
good.
he played in the team...
You need someone like that, don't you, that just brings
the guy.
everyone together.
He was so laid back and so funny. Oh, he's just the best, Britty.
The good old days.
It can be a toil. We were there for 1 year for 8 weeks, and it was the wettest October they've had since any records. So that's probably 300 years. Remember the first couple of days, you know, jet lagged. Coming downstairs at 3 in the morning, going to the concierge, mate, when's the sun come up? He goes, oh, about February.
Never. Oh.
All my mates are away in Bali or Mexico surfing. It can drag on, but looking back, it's some of the great memories. And the games are so good. It's different over there. They sing songs and sing songs about the players. And you know what else? They clap good footy. So if you put a good try on, the Poms they'll get up and clap.
That's nice. We don't always get that.
Good people, north of England.
That's
Very
great.
good people.
Great.
Tough, hard people.
They are.
Can be grim over there, but looking back, great memories.
Would you want to be on the tour if we
No
sent a
way.
commentary team over? You're done.
No way.
If you're not going to Vegas, you're not going back there.
I'm not going to Vegas. Never, ever, ever. Yeah. I want to go somewhere hot.
All right, that might do us. Good game of footy tonight to kick off. Who did you end up tipping?
I tipped Penrith, but I give South a real opportunity. Talking about that tacking coming out of trouble.
Yeah.
If one player can break the shackles, it's Cody. He knows when to pull the trigger. But once again, that's risk-reward sort of thing. But a core stadium, just have a watch tonight when you're watching it, whether it's got any merit moving the ball out of trouble. Once it gets into that sequence of back and forth,
Ping-pong.
someone pass, someone offload.
Who wins on the other side of the fence? The crowd. These are two of my favourite crowds in terms of ripping and tearing. They're pretty noisy.
Well,
the Penrith fans and the South Sydney fans
didn't travel.
Well, there were problems with the trains last time, so
okay.
I reckon they might have sorted
Chris
that
Mims
out.
sort that out. Who's the Minister of
I don't know.
Transport? Is that Joe Haler?
I'm not even going to pretend I know anything about
lift.
politics.
Hashtag Joe Lift.
Get the fans there.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next week.
You've been watching
another production from
Nine's Wide World of Sports.